God says, stop crying, the hardest part is over. There comes a moment in every weary soul's journey when the quiet ache within becomes too heavy to hide, and tonight, God speaks directly into that hidden place of exhaustion. He whispers gently into the corners of your overwhelmed heart and says, "My child, stop crying. The hardest part is already behind you." These words are not merely comfort, they are a sanctuary, a divine invitation to release everything you have been clutching in silence. For whilst your mind has been circling the same fears, and your nights have stretched into long corridors of worry, heaven has been moving in ways you could not see. You have endured storms that left echoes inside your chest, echoes you never told anyone about. You carried burdens that were far too heavy for one person to bear, yet you still rose each morning with trembling fortitude. Even when your spirit felt fractured, even when your inner stillness was lost beneath the noise of life, you kept going. And God saw every moment. Not one tear slipped unnoticed, not one prayer dissolved unheard. In the divine unfolding of your journey, nothing has been wasted. Tonight marks a shift, a sacred turn in your path. God is not scolding you for your tears, He is acknowledging them. He is recognizing how long you have fought battles in the dark, how often you felt alone even when surrounded by others. He knows the disappointment that tightened your chest, the betrayal that bruised your trust, the uncertainty that made your heart restless. You were never weak for feeling this way. You were human, and yet you carried yourself with a strength that even angels whispered about. Now, breathe. Slowly. Softly. Let your shoulders release that invisible weight. For this is the moment where the divine embrace surrounds you like a tender cloak, restoring what life tried to steal. God says you are not standing in the ruins, you are standing at the edge of restoration. The pain that once dictated your steps no longer has the authority it used to. The hardest nights, the ones that broke you open, have already done their work. The dawn is not approaching, it is here. Understand this, your suffering was not a punishment. It was a passage. A sacred recalibration. A transition into a life that will feel more serene, more aligned, more rooted in who you truly are. You have been stripped only of what was never meant to stay. And whilst the process felt merciless, it was guided by a guardian who never left your side. You are entering a season where clarity replaces confusion, where peace flows where chaos once lived. The divine energy surrounding you now is gentle, pure, and deeply intentional. It is weaving healing through your spirit, restoring inner stillness, and calling your heart back home to tranquility. So hear God once more, deeply and unmistakably. My child, stop crying now. You survived what tried to destroy you. The worst is over, and the healing has begun. There is a softness settling around you now, a gentle shift that you may not fully understand yet, but your soul recognizes it. It is the quiet moment after a storm when the air feels different. Cleaner, lighter, almost sacred. God says, breathe, my child. You have held yourself together for far too long. And whilst you have mastered the art of appearing strong on the outside, heaven knows how fragile you have felt within. Tonight, you are allowed to unravel, not into chaos, but into comfort. For so long, you pushed through the days with a heart that felt like it was carrying old bruises. You moved through life as if you were constantly bracing for the next blow. There were times when you questioned whether you were truly seen, or whether your silent battles were invisible to everyone around you. But God saw each weary moment. He saw the nights when your thoughts refused to quieten, and serenity felt like a distant dream. He saw the moments you questioned your worth, your purpose, your path. None of it was overlooked. You must know this: you were never meant to carry all this pain alone. Your soul was created to rest in divine solace, to find refuge in something greater than your fears. Yet life has a way of hardening even the softest hearts, pushing them into survival mode. You have been surviving for so long that you forgot what it feels like to simply be. To sit in gentle stillness without fear clawing at your mind. To feel safe in your own skin. To trust that the unfolding of your life is not working against you. But tonight, that begins to change. God is lifting the weight layer by layer, restoring the parts of you that were forced to grow too quickly. He is touching the areas of your spirit that have been tender for far too long. You are allowed to exhale now. You are allowed to let the worry slip through your fingers. This chapter of heaviness is coming to an end. There is a divine purpose for every struggle you have endured. Even the ones that made no sense, even the ones that felt cruel. Every tear softened your heart. Every disappointment redirected your steps. Every setback carved depth into your wisdom. All of it shaped the fortitude within you, the quiet, steadfast strength that has carried you through storms others never knew you were facing. You have not been forgotten. You have not been forsaken. You have not been overlooked. You are held, delicately, intentionally, by a presence that never wavers. So hear this truth settle into your bones: you are safe now. You are seen. You are understood. And you are being restored. Where you once felt overwhelmed, serenity will soon reign. Where fear once controlled your steps, divine peace will guide you. This is not wishful thinking. This is the promise heaven is sealing over your life tonight. There is something sacred about the pain you have carried, something few people recognize, yet heaven has never ignored it. God whispers to you now, my beloved child, you have endured more than most will ever understand. And whilst the world may have expected you to simply keep going, to smile through the ache, to remain composed even when breaking inside, the divine knows the truth of what you have survived. Your resilience has been heroic, even on the days when you questioned whether you could take one more step. You have walked through seasons where the ground beneath you felt unstable, where every decision seemed heavy, where loneliness pressed against your chest like an unspoken weight. You have known what it feels like to cry quietly so no one hears, to sit in silence hoping your own thoughts would finally give you a moment of peace. Yet even in these moments, your heart kept beating, searching for solace, longing for sanctuary, craving the gentle reassurance that you were not walking alone. God wants you to know, you were never abandoned. Not once. Even when you felt overlooked, heaven was watching with a tender awareness. Even when your strength was fading, divine guardianship was woven around you. Even when your spirit was weary, grace was flowing unseen, restoring what life tried so hard to drain. You are not broken, you are brave. You are not failing, you are enduring. And you are not behind, you are unfolding exactly as you were meant to. There is a misconception you've carried for too long, a quiet belief that your pain somehow diminishes your worth. But God says, your pain has not made you less. It has refined you. The tears you shed in secret were not signs of weakness but indicators of your immense depth. Those trembling moments, when you didn't know how to hold yourself together, are the very moments that heaven honors most. For it is in your vulnerability that your true fortitude has been revealed. Tonight, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere around you. A gentle warmth begins to settle over your weary heart, like a soft blanket placed upon a trembling soul. The divine is restoring inner stillness within you, quietly, delicately, intentionally. The anxieties that once controlled your breath are losing their grip. The fears that once dictated your choices are being loosened. Your spirit is being allowed to rest for the first time in a long while. Let yourself believe this: the darkest nights have already passed. You survived the chapter that was meant to destroy you. You stood in the storm until it had no choice but to weaken. And now, you stand at the threshold of healing, a place where serenity begins to flow back into your heart, where hope becomes familiar again, where peace no longer feels like a distant dream but a returning friend. So hear God's voice. My child, I am restoring you. You will not remain in sorrow. You will rise again, stronger than you have ever been. There comes a moment when the soul can no longer pretend, when the mask slips, and the truth of your exhaustion rises to the surface. God looks upon you with a tenderness that words can scarcely express, and He says, My child, I know how tired you are. I know how long you've carried what was never meant to be carried alone. These words are not spoken in judgment but in deep compassion. For whilst others may have seen only fragments of your struggle, the divine has seen every hidden layer. You have walked through valleys that felt endless. You have endured nights that felt heavier than the world itself. So many times, you whispered prayers you weren't sure anyone heard. You begged for clarity whilst standing in the middle of confusion. You asked for strength whilst feeling your spirit tremble. And yet, you kept going. Even when overwhelmed, you rose. Even when afraid, you continued. Even when your heart ached, you chose to believe that perhaps, somehow, things would one day get better. God honors that. He honors every moment your fortitude held you together when everything else was falling apart. He honors the tears you wiped away quickly, afraid someone might notice. He honors the courage it took to face each new day whilst your soul felt fragile. He honors the way you loved others even when your own heart was aching for love. Nothing about your path has been ignored. Nothing about your pain has been insignificant. You have been stronger than you were ever given credit for. But strength does not mean the absence of sorrow. It means you carried the sorrow and still found ways to breathe through it. Still found ways to show kindness. Still found ways to hope. Strength is not loud, sometimes it is a quiet whisper that says, I'll try again tomorrow. Tonight, the divine draws closer to you than ever, so close that your weary heart can finally feel the sanctuary it has been craving. God is not asking you to pretend anymore. He is not asking you to be invincible. He is asking you to rest. To surrender the weight. To release the fears. To allow serenity to enter the places where worry once lived. The unfolding of your healing has already begun, even if you can't yet see it. Even if you struggle to believe it. You are being restored. Slowly, gently, intentionally. The cracks in your spirit are not points of failure, they are openings where the divine light can enter. Your tenderness is not a flaw, it is proof of your humanity and your depth. What you call weakness, heaven calls beauty. What you call broken, heaven calls becoming. So hear God's voice one more time, steady and compassionate. My child, you are safe now. You are not alone. The chapter that hurt you is closing. The hardest part is over. And I am with you in every breath that follows. There is a gentle turning taking place within you, a subtle but powerful shift that marks the beginning of a new chapter. God speaks softly into your spirit and says, "My child, loosen your grip. You were never meant to control every outcome." These words are not a reprimand, they are a release. For whilst you have tried so hard to hold every piece of your life together, the divine is inviting you into a deeper sanctuary, one where trust becomes your foundation rather than fear. For so long, your mind has been entangled in what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. You have lived with the quiet pressure to solve everything, to anticipate every storm before it forms, to protect yourself from disappointment by preparing for it. But this constant vigilance has exhausted your heart. The truth is, you took on responsibilities that were never yours to carry alone. You forced yourself to be strong in places where you were meant to lean, not stand. God sees that strain. He sees the way your thoughts spiral late at night, the way your soul grows weary from trying to predict the future. He knows how overwhelmed you felt, how often you questioned whether you were doing enough. And today, the divine whispers something that brings serenity back into your chest: you do not need to fight life. Let life unfold. There is a divine unfolding that happens when you release your tight grasp on certainty. The moment you let go, truly let go, you create the space for miracles to move. You create room for clarity to emerge. You allow the guardian presence around you to guide rather than merely observe. Letting go is not giving up, letting go is allowing the divine order to restore what has been disrupted. Consider how nature moves without rushing. The river flows without forcing its way. The sunrise arrives without strain. The seasons shift with precision, without haste, without panic. Everything in creation trusts the rhythm placed within it. And now, God is calling you to trust your own rhythm, the one woven into your spirit long before the storms ever touched your life. You are not falling behind. You are not failing. You are not lost. You are simply transitioning from forcing to flowing. From fear to fortitude. From worry to inner stillness. The sanctuary you seek doesn't come from having all the answers, it comes from surrendering the need to control them. You are entering a season where peace will no longer feel temporary. Where clarity will no longer feel out of reach. Where your heart will no longer feel pulled in 1,000 directions. God whispers once more, tenderly and unmistakably. Release what is not yours to carry. The path ahead is safe. The journey is shifting, and you will not walk it alone. This is the beginning of a new perspective, one shaped by trust rather than tension, by serenity rather than struggle. There is a quiet wisdom settling into your spirit now, a wisdom born not from ease, but from everything you have endured. God speaks into this moment with a gentle certainty and says, "My child, not everything that leaves your life is a loss." And whilst you may have spent countless hours questioning why certain people walked away, why certain plans collapsed, why certain seasons ended before you were ready, heaven sees a truth your heart has only begun to understand. Some doors were closed to protect you, not to punish you. You have held on to things that once brought you comfort, believing that letting go would diminish your worth or leave you empty. But the divine is showing you now that release is not rejection, it is redirection. The people who drifted from your path were never meant to accompany you into the next unfolding of your life. Their departure created the space you needed, even if it didn't feel like it at the time. God knows how tightly you clung to what felt familiar, how much you feared change, how deeply you longed for stability. But comfort is not the same as destiny. Some situations were draining your serenity. Some relationships were dimming your inner stillness. Some attachments were pulling you away from who you were becoming. You were growing, but they were not. And the divine, with tender intention, guided you toward a path where you could breathe again. This is why you are now being invited into a shift of perspective, an awakening that says, not everything that ended was meant to stay, and not everything that stays is meant to end. Your journey is not about holding on, it is about aligning. The guardian energy around you is gently steering you toward what restores rather than depletes, toward what brings solace rather than sorrow. Take a moment to feel the truth of this. You are allowed to outgrow what no longer nurtures your soul. You are allowed to step away from chaos and into serenity. You are allowed to walk toward what expands your spirit. Growth is not betrayal. Growth is honoring the divine intention placed within you. And whilst the ending of certain chapters may still sting, know that pain is often the first sign of transformation. The discomfort you felt is not a signal to retreat, it is a sign that your life is making space for something new, something aligned, something divinely orchestrated. You are learning that not all storms are sent to destroy, some are sent to clear the path. Not all delays are denials, some are protections. Not all silence is abandonment, sometimes it is guidance in its most sacred form. So hear this with clarity. Trust the unfolding. Trust the release. Trust the rearranging. Nothing is slipping away from you, everything is shifting into place. Your perspective is widening. Your spirit is awakening. Your path is becoming clearer. And the divine walks with you, step by gentle step.